name is Rick Dalen. I own and operate Northern Harvest Farm and have since 2005. Primarily we're a CSA farm, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So most of the produce that we grow goes directly to people, families in the community, Duluth, Cloquet, right around here in Wrenshall, Carlton. Basically we, through the growing season, grow a wide variety of different produce, and then on a weekly or an every other week basis, we people in the community get a box of vegetables from us that's representative of what's in season during that time. So it's everything that they're getting is coming from our farm. It's kind of a win-win situation. People have to be somewhat flexible. That's one of the things that I've said over the years is like there's certain people that it's just like CSA is not for everybody, but there's certain people that just love it. They get this box and it's like sparks their creativity. They say it's like Christmas every week. They're like, they open it up and they're just like imagining the possibilities of what they can do with that. It's difficult to make a living doing this kind of work. That's the biggest challenge, is to be able to pay ourselves and pay our workers adequately. We're all sort of used to paying a certain amount of money for food, and most of that's coming from a system that's highly subsidized, or there's other factors at play that drive down costs, such as access to really cheap labor, or use of chemicals that makes it possible to grow on a much bigger scale without the amount of attention to detail that we have to have when we're dealing with like weed management, for example, without the use of herbicides. And part of the thing that's fun about farming, and this type of farming in particular, is that we have all these challenges, we have all these problems that we have to solve, and so we have to get creative, and we're always always learning, always doing things different, always trying new things. And so I'll be able to keep learning my whole life, which is really fun and rewarding and sometimes stressful, but I think ultimately it's meaningful. And weed control is huge. On an organic farm, that's just a really big deal, and so there's so many facets to it, so many pieces to the puzzle, and it's crop specific too. For example, with carrots, one thing that we do is we actually intentionally will germinate a bunch of weeds right before we plant. So we'll get the beds prepared. So carrots is something we direct seed. It's not something that we start a plant and then put the plant out. We just put the seeds directly into the ground. And so that presents a little bit more of a weed challenge, because you don't have, when you put a transplant out, you have a little bit of a jump on the weeds, right? But when you direct seed something, you're putting it in there at the same time as there's already other seeds there that want to compete with that crop. So one thing that we'll do is we'll intentionally germinate. So I'll get the beds prepared, we'll intentionally germinate a bunch of weeds out in the field, and we'll seed our carrots into that, even as the weeds are already germinated and doing their thing, starting to try to take over, but they're still small. And then we will what we call flame weed. So we'll use a propane torch to just put a bunch of heat onto all those weeds. This is right before the carrots have germinated. The carrots, we'll maybe see one or two that start, they're like overachievers that just come up before the rest of the crop. And so timing is really critical, because if you wait too long, then you got a bad situation. But if you get the timing right, then you kill all those weeds with the flame weeder, and then the carrots come up and they basically don't have any weed competition, at least initially. Another thing that's really important from a weed control standpoint is just disturbing the soil really gently and shallowly with various tools that we've come up with, put together, developed, bought, that just you don't even see the weeds yet. They're just germinating, the seeds that is. They've just germinated, and they're what we call at the white thread stage. So if you just went to some ground that was sort of freshly tilled like a week or two ago and just ran your hands through it, you might find these little white threads. And so those are weeds that have just germinated. They haven't even really come up and started to do anything yet, so you don't even necessarily know they're there unless you pay attention to that sort of thing. But that's their most vulnerable point. If you wait till they're big like this, and they've got broadly, they're doing their thing, they're photosynthesizing, they're harder to kill. Like even if you hoe them, they might reroot, But if you get them when they're at that white thread stage, then that's their most vulnerable points. Because everything's so timing oriented and we can't necessarily do everything on the farm when it needs to be done, that's a constant challenge, is being able to do those things and do them fast, do them effectively, efficiently. So that's a set of tools that we're developing, always sort of refining and developing in order to achieve that weed control and get things done in a timely fashion.